Good morning. Good morning. Greetings, Zimbabwe. It's actually afternoon. It's been raining since last night, so can't really quite tell what time is it because it just feels like it's still early in the morning. Welcome to Zimbabwe Daily. My name is Yvonne Muchaka. We just want to put it on this issue that has been making rounds on our media platforms. We've had a lot of people say negative things, others express indifference, others concerned about the issue of the COVID-19 vaccine. We have seen globally a great movement. UK is targeting 15 million people to be vaccinated by end of January. India is targeting 1.3 billion people to get vaccinated, and France is targeting 1 million vaccines per month in the schools. Now, Zimbabwe, where are we? But before we even get to where we are in Africa, in Zimbabwe in particular, we just want to take a look at how the whole COVID-19 issue was introduced into our society and what that has created. Some levels of resistance even before the vaccine comes. I've got two guests in the studio with me today to help me to unpack just the just the the understanding of where the vaccination resistance is coming from in our contemporary society, with also learning from historical experiences that our societies have experienced. So I want to introduce to you our guests, starting with the good doctor. Welcome, doctor. All right, we seem to be having a little bit of network connection issues. Um, Apostle,
Thank you. I'm Dr. Maramba, the medical superintendent. To be having a little bit of network connection issues. Apostle.
all right, Doctor, I'll ask you to come back into the studio again. Maybe keep your phone on the on lens on this on landscape. We seem to be having a problem when you put your phone on landscape. So I'll just kick you from the studio for now. Please rejoin again, Dr. Maramba. All right, Apostle Manyonda.
Hi, Yvonne. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Thank you so much, everybody. My name is Apostle Duncan Manyonda. I am an apostolic oversight of more than 500 pastors globally, and I am also the overseer and apostle of Power Center Church, which is based, it's headquartered in Johannesburg, South Africa. I am Zimbabwean by birth. I'm a mixture of Zimbabwean, Zulu, and Malawian. And I'm also a life coach and a businessman.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Apostle Manyonda. Dr. Maramba, welcome back. Yes, can you try to
Thank you.
introduce yourself now?
I'm Dr. Maramba, the medical superintendent at Ngoma Uru Hospital. He's one of our major psychiatric hospitals in Zimbabwe. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on Zimbabwe Daily. And Nasiti Nenyaya, that I feel we really need to interrogate as a society in order for us to get to an understanding of where we are. Just before we start this conversation, I want to play this video that has been making viral in our societies. So there we go.
Just before we start this conversation, I want to play
Any
this
vaccine
video.
in any Zambian body before strenuous verification and validation is done to the vaccine. No injection should be inserted into a body of any Zambian. We must declare that the vaccine is unsafe until it is scientifically proved to be safe. Not by the Americans, like I said, not by the Russians, not by the Europeans, but declared safe by our own scientists and our own doctors. I heard somebody say, where are we going to get scientists and doctors? Well, if you can't verify what is given to you by your own people, then I suggest that you don't get involved in touching things that are made by others, because then you can be poisoned and we can all die like fools, like Martin Luther King Jr. said. If we are ignorant and we don't want to verify what we eat and what we inject in our bodies or ingest in our bodies, then I think that we do not have the sovereignty and we are not a state. We are now called a banana republic. But I believe that we have got some of the most educated scientists in this country and doctors who must be trusted to dissect the constitution of this vaccine and ensure that it is right and fit for our people. We may be poor, but we are not stupid. We can read when they write on the vaccine that this is not for distribution in the United States, and this cannot be used in the European Union. This injection cannot, this vaccine cannot be used in Europe. They're even telling you that this is not for us because they've got some other substandard stuff that they make for us. How do you know the injection that was given to President Biden is the same vaccine that is coming here? You didn't check it when they put it on him. You have not compared that vaccine to the vaccine you have received. You can watch it on CNN and say, even President Biden got a dosage of it. Are you sure? Did you see it? Did you get the drop and analyze it that it's the same drop getting into an African's body? I think that we need to be more responsible. And our salvation outside God will be by responsible governments on the continent of Africa. Corrupt governments, those who are just looking for money from the West, are going to kill their people like fools. We shall die like fools if we have a government which is corrupt and is only waiting to be given money by the international community. We should never accept everything that comes to us without verifying it ourselves. So I shall not debate myself our reservations on the privileged information that we hold about the coming vaccine. I think I shall leave that out. I shall not deal with it. Suffice to say that I would not inject it into my body, my children's, or those I love who happen to be all Zambians. This position can only change if it is established by ourselves that the vaccine is safe.
All right. So that is Dr. Nevis Mumba. He's the former vice president of Zambia, and he is urging President Lungu to be patriotic and not use the vaccine before it is verified by local experts. Now, I'll come to you, Dr. Maramba. Is the thinking that Dr. Nevis Mumba the same with what the generality of Africans are thinking, that this vaccine cannot be trusted, the source of this vaccine cannot be trusted? All right, I think we've lost Dr. Maramba there. We seem to be he mentioned that there's no electricity on his side and it usually plays around with their network. But I'll come to you, Apostle Manyunda. Is the thinking that Dr. Nevis Mumba the same that we're finding ourselves in our society, or there is a different thinking altogether?
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Let me start by saying Dr. Nevis Mumba is a personal father, brother unto me. Personally, I've known him from 1999. A lot of people might not know some of his background. Before he became a politician, he is a man who is well known as a man who was very active in the kingdom. He's a preacher. He had one of the biggest churches in Zambia. So he's a man that I know. And of course, he is a preacher come politician. However, what Dr. Neves Mumba is saying here, I took a bit of notes when you were playing that video. Mm-hmm. It has got some history to it. You know it pretty well, Yvonne, that there was a time in the United States of America where Black Americans were injected with that vaccine, but actually what they were doing, it was a test for a vaccine that had to deal with STIs, and a lot of black men were injected with that vaccine. Many died, and one of the United States presidents, I can't forget his name, but it's there on public record. He ended up apologizing for what was done, and their families were actually paid millions of dollars. But there is no amount of money you can pay an individual when you have lost a loved one. That's number one. And number two, Africa has also been identified as a place of experiment. For me, I do not have historical data, or I do not have information of people that can say, we had this and this and this and this and this and this. And personally, I am 50. My mother told me that the days that we were born, we had about 6 vaccines, and I'm still alive. So what Dr. Neves Mumba is advocating for, he is saying because of some of the things that have happened in the past, he is only calling African leaders, number one, to become, he used the word responsibility. He is calling African leaders to be responsible before they become gullible to anything that comes from the West. All he is saying is, before you can take the vaccine and inject the millions of Africans, I think as much as we are poor, but we have pharmacists, we have labs, we have medical doctors that can test the drug, whether it has got side effects or not. Number two, he also used the term that we might be poor, but we are not stupid. And he is also coming from a place of being extremely skeptical. So what Dr. Neves Mumba, he is not resisting the drug. He is, or else will end up like the white garment, individuals who resisted children to be injected, and a lot of their kids died with polio. Some died because of measles. Personally, I do have my father's brother who became literally blind. He is now blind. He's about 55. He is blind because his father refused that he become vaccinated when he was young, which is quite tragic. So I think all Dr. Mumba is calling us Africans to do is to become responsible before you take the drug to your people. I think it's prudent for us as a people just to make sure that whatever we are going to distribute to our people is safe for our people. He is not saying no vaccine.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Apostle. Indeed, there is skepticism because of the context in which things are happening nowadays. There have been videos circulating that of some of the powerful people in the world, talking about the need to restrict growth in Africa, the need for a takeover, for Africa because of the riches that are abundant in this continent. Now, just looking at some of our viewers, Hitler Mchemwa, he says, I don't have much to talk about since I don't even know what's going on. All right. Hitler, you need to come out of that cave of Adullam and begin to take interest in the things and the conversations that are taking place in the country right now, because COVID-19 is real. We are seeing it. We are hearing that people are dying. So it's about time that as a community, we begin to take interest in these matters. Dorcas Beverly Siziba, you said, personally, I'm not taking any vaccine. It's not good for my body at all. If I'm to fight the COVID, I would rather take the traditional medicine that our forefathers used. That's who we are as Africans. I have my suspicion about the vaccine, have done my research, and they've found out it's an experiment. And why experimenting it in Africa? Are we less of humans? I say it's high time Africans wake up. We are not fools. Okay, thank you so much, Dorcas, for coming through. Privilege Mchenje said that vaccine will eliminate all the Africans if we become ignorant. So there is this fear, which is why I would really love Dr. Maramba, to come on board to take us through the psychological impact of the way that the COVID-19 story has been communicated to us, and the extent to which, our psyche is encouraging us or discouraging us from taking in any more information. Dr. Maramba, thank you so much for coming back. I actually need you. Right. Let's just wait for him a minute for him to try to connect. Dr. Maramba, can you hear me? Your microphone is muted. Right.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Dr. Maramba, can you give us, some of the findings that you have done in your own research around the psychological implications of the way information around COVID-19 was communicated to us, and even the issue of the vaccine? What are the facts and what is the myth? We want to believe that this vaccine is coming to eliminate us as Africans, and they are trying to experiment it on Africa when our own infection rates are lower than those of the West. Maybe you can give us a brief on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My apology for the poor network, but right. Taking from Dr. Mumba's presentation, I think, like what Apostle has been saying, he's just trying to put up a point that Africans and Zimbabweans in particular. But when we look at the background of the issue of COVID and the vaccine, I think maybe the background is people saw a lot of things happening around the world, like what you're saying, that we have seen a lot of deaths, a lot of mortality in the West and in other countries more than in our own local environment. And people have been talking about the new normal where everyone has got to be vaccinated, and there's no anything that you can do unless you are vaccinated. You can't travel, you can't go anywhere, you can't do much unless you are vaccinated. I think for us as believers, that's where the skepticism begins or starts from, because people then switch on to think. You remember what the Bible talks about in the book when it talks about the mark of the beast. People begin to think maybe this is the thing that came, that is being introduced by the enemy, that you can't do anything, you can't sell, you can't travel unless you have been vaccinated. That's where many people begin to become very skeptical. But when you look at these vaccines as they're being produced, the companies that are producing these vaccines, they are quite reputable companies, and these are they're not being done by one company. They're being done by several companies from several countries, and verified. And these vaccines can be verified, and if people want to then even look at them and study them, they can be easily done. So I think people are just worried because of a lot of ideas around the issue of the mark of the beast being part of the vaccine and coming in as a way that the devil is bringing in that issue of the mark of the beast is one of the areas. And of course, there's a lot of talk as well in terms of the Western world having used this platform before. I know one story that is talked about in West Africa. I don't know the finer details, where they talk about the family planning was brought in. And when it was brought in, it was not fully explained to the people that were receiving it. And they only discovered years later that they were actually controlling birth control rather than what they initially explained. And these are some of the stories that I just said that to prove that actually it happened that way. So I find that from that kind of perspective, people then begin to say, no, why don't you make sure this vaccine is really authentic and is the real one and is the same one that is being given to the people in the West? Otherwise, we are getting something that will end up destroying our own people. But these are vaccines that are scientifically proven to be genuine and to be authentic. And they're different. These vaccines are different. These COVID vaccines, they're actually different. There are those that are DNA based, that are RNA based, and that those that are protein based. And they differ depending on which company has made them. Of course, the other issue that people worry about is the fact that these vaccines have taken too short a time to develop, because normally a vaccine would take quite a time before they can then be allowed or legally permitted to be used on human beings. It takes time to monitor them and to look at the side effect, the things, the impact, and us.
Right. Okay. So we've lost him again, but I think he raises some very fundamental issues. Apostle Manyunda, I'll come back to you because you are an apostle. You are the ones who are teaching people in the churches. What is this, and why has it been that the coming in of COVID-19 has risen the talk of the mark of the beast, 666?
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Unfortunately, we are now in the information age, and there is a principle of he who controls the narrative is the one who controls the mind or the thinking of a people. And we have had people that are followed by thousands. We have had people that are followed by millions. Men, of the cloth who started talking about these theories. But let me just take you back. Let me just take you back to the history of the church. The church has made very fundamental and or very grievous errors in the past. I remember there were days when the church began to propagate that Jesus was coming back. And at that particular time, people were saying, do not go to school. There's no need for you to go to school anymore. There is no more need for you to do this and to get trained because Jesus is coming back. And when that generation, made those errors, they are long gone, but they did cost a whole generation and shortchanged people for development. Then I remember in the year 1999, I was preaching. It was actually the time that I met Dr. Neves Mumba in Zambia. We were preaching in Zambia. Yvonne, there was such a talk of Y2K, the coming of the year 2000. And the church began to propagate a lot of lies concerning, Y2K. And they were saying computers are going to be doing this, and there were all these conspiracies and so on. It's unfortunate that the church has committed heinous white-collar crimes, and we have got away with it. The time must come now when people of the cloth or men of the cloth that are careless with their comments, careless with propagation of the truth, must be prosecuted. It's a hard time because we control the thinking of a society. We control, the way people behave. And then we came into the era. I also remember when Obama came in, they said Obama was the Antichrist, but Obama did his 8 years and he's out of the office. And many people that have said Obama is the Antichrist, he is coming with the 666. And I remember, like Dr. Maramba was saying, there were a lot of people that were trying to put a lot of Daniel scripture, Revelation scripture, pointing that Obama is the Antichrist. And then came another bunch, the evangelicals, and right now America is in total confusion. They said Donald Trump is the savior. He has been sent, and actually it has become more like it has become more like a cult where they think he is the second Jesus, and all these prophecies came. And when he lost the election up to today, go on social media, they are credible men and women of God who cannot just accept that they have made errors. Now, this is not new, Yvonne. We now have got some men who are also coming back, and they are saying, COVID-19 is the mark of the beast and so on. But let me take you back to history. This is not the first pandemic we have ever had. In the Bible, we have had so many pandemics. And for the sake of those who do not research history, the Spanish flu, 1918 to 1920, it had about 4 waves, and it killed about 500 million people. And one of the things that broke my heart, Yvonne, was when I was reading some tabloid from the year 1919, when there were some preachers who defiled medical science, and they began to come up with so many conspiracies in one of the villages where a church was extremely effective in Spain. One of the preachers caused the whole village that had turned to Christ to die, and history, it is on public information that in that village only 2 individuals survived, and they were 38 orphans. This is the danger that happens when the church begins to articulate issues that they are not well versed in, number one. Number two, when they begin to push what we call personal convictions. When God has not said anything, they are what are called personal convictions. It's dangerous to push personal convictions. I have my own personal convictions about a lot of matters in life, but I am a responsible leader. I don't bring them to anybody. These are things that I call it pub talk. Don't bring pub talk on social platforms, because you will have a lot of people, drown. Remember, it was Jimmy Jones who him and a number of hundreds of people committed suicide because he had said Jesus is coming back, and so on and so forth, and the whole church committed suicide. And I'm telling you, let's have this conversation in the next 3 years, and you are going to realize how sometimes foolish. I am a man of God, but some of our brothers can be. Yvonne, I travel globally. I have been vaccinated. I have yellow fever. I've been vaccinated with yellow fever. I remember there was a time when we were young preachers, overzealous, who said, no, the devil is trying to kill you. As a preacher, he knows the anointing that you carry. You cannot be injected. But when I realized that if I don't get injected, I will not enter into UAE, I will not enter into East Africa and the Caribbean islands and so on. I have been vaccinated over 12 years. No. In fact, it's about 23 years now that I've been traveling. And until God has given you a sure word, which is then authenticated by credible prophets, men and fathers of the faith, please let us not push our personal convictions, because we are going to become peddlers of lies. And I want to advocate this very strongly to the governments. Men of God who are careless, and they must come a day when they must be convicted.
Right.
This will teach many of us to become responsible with what we say.
Interesting, Apostle, because we've seen some prophets coming through and saying that the Lord showed them this pandemic before it happened, so they are better qualified to actually talk about the struggles that are impending, and also to talk about the solutions to the challenge, because God has already shown them. So I'm sure we'll have a number of people disagree with you on that aspect, but all the same, I think, like you've said, let's have this conversation after 3 years and see where we would be. Dr. Maramba, thank you so much for coming back on board. We have people who are asking these questions. Where do all these vaccines come from? Are they coming from Africa, all of them? If from them, I think it's easier to eliminate us from that than corona vaccine. I think it's all about money. This is Justin Paquette, and I felt that his concern is a concern that most people also have. The vaccines that are already there in the country, for example, are we making them on our own here in Zimbabwe? Are we making them on our own here in Africa? Or we are still dependent on those people as well to send us, these vaccines? Now, if it's all about money, then where are we getting the thinking as Africans that they are after eliminating us? Dr. Maramba. All right. His network is really struggling with his network.
Can I just come in as he prepares to come in, Yvonne?
Right.
In 1989, I had a privilege to work for Caps Pharmaceutical. It was my first job, and my father. Anyone can Google. My father was one of the individuals who was actually in the quality control department. And I know a bit about the pharmaceutical industry because I was once involved. Caps Pharmaceuticals, they had one of the departments that used, it was called the penicillin plant. And I remember whenever there were some drugs that were developed outside, Caps would buy the rights to actually develop them for Africa. I am here in South Africa. There are also a number of pharmaceutical companies that are actually trying to buy the rights also to produce. So it's not every drug and it's not every vaccine that we consume here that comes from the West. It's a lie. It's another conspiracy again. However, these issues are issues that we have got to do with the leadership of Africa. It's one of the shortcomings again. Africa did not invest in research and development. We spent a lot of money in politics, and we did not invest in research and development. So, Yvonne, if you cannot make a hamburger in your house because you have failed to invest in making burgers, please do not point fingers at somebody who is making burgers. It's not everybody who makes burgers who is a devil. It's not true. It's not true. But also on the other side of the coin, I have understood that the pharmaceutical industry is not coming in every time as a savior. It's a business. It's cutthroat, and it's also run now by cartels and sometimes people in inverted commas that we call mafias, and billionaires and millionaires are running those businesses, and some of them they are thought to be having other plans besides just being saviors to people. But it's not every company. It's unfortunate that I travel in many places in Africa. Remember, Yvonne, you are aware that right here in South Africa, we actually had a whole president who said no HIV and began to speak ill of research and development. And right now, probably on the whole continent, if not in the whole world, South Africa, because of somebody who was careless, they have almost like the highest rates of HIV because of leaders that are careless, people who do not want to adhere to scientific findings. Now, this is the stance that I have taken. I am a preacher. I am an IT graduate. I know a bit about the pharmaceutical industry, but I am not trained in virology. So I am not going to involve myself in trying to talk about matters that I am not trained in, unless God gives me a pure word a sure word. I
Right.
will not be careless. I want to be a responsible father. I don't want to be like my uncle. I told you I have my father's cousin who is now a professor in Canada, but he is blind because his father, who was in Mupo story, refused him to be vaccinated. He was hit with polio and a number of sicknesses, and he became blind. At that time, my father was working in the pharmaceutical department in another hospital and almost got arrested because they thought my father was staying with that gentleman, and they said, "You, Raphael, being in the medical fraternity, you cannot be so careless not to get this young boy vaccinated." I don't want to be an irresponsible leader that thousands of families, if not millions, will weep because of the irresponsibility of my lips. That will be my stance in this matter.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Apostle. I think there are quite a number of issues that we have seen, because in this episode, we're just looking at the psychological elements around the COVID-19 vaccine. We intend to bring on board our directors in the departments of epidemiology so that they can tell us the scientific side of things. We intend to bring an immunologist so that he will advise us, he or she will advise us on what is happening. So we are coming to almost all the concerns that people have. We just wanted to understand the psychological thinking in relation to the context in which we are in, because this COVID-19 vaccine is coming at the backdrop of a number of conspiracies. There is the aspect of population control. The population control agenda of the West, right? They want to stop the growth and the development of Africa by all means for their own now benefits, in the West. So we had the issue of contraceptives coming on board for population control measures. The same thing, the same conspiracy has been raised about COVID-19, and there is a doctor who has said that coronavirus, COVID-19, is not a natural pandemic, but was made in a laboratory. So we're going to bring experts in those fields to talk about it. Yes, Madagascar, Privi Chitsiga, you raise an important element. Madagascar has come up with the COVID-19 vaccine, and they've refused for the World Health Organization to take it and place another medicine into it so that it can become certified. I think that is the next step. We're going to be having this series, like you said, this is part 1. We're going to have part 2, part 3, as we deal and go deeper into this. We're actually traditional people who deal with sense. Why? Because we've been told to drink anazombani, anamoringa. We've been told to kunatira nemashita and stuff like this. So and the whole technical and scientific thing. And I think you raise an important element, which is that Africa and mostly our nation have not invested in research and development. So because we are not able to, the last time I had a conversation with Dr. Henry Madzorera, the former Minister of Health and Child Welfare, he mentioned that even in clinical terms, they have some samples which they send over to South Africa for a second opinion, because in Zimbabwe, we no longer have that equipment to be able to test samples. So even if the vaccine comes through, like what Dr. Nevas Mumbai said, that we need to test, who is going to test with what equipment to know if the vaccine will work? Let's just take comments that came through from some of our viewers. Joanna Marivara, you say, we are at war where we no longer need weapons and guns. Wow. Thank you so much for that. Dusty Sega says, stop diverting our attention to what has not been said. Forget spirituality. give us responses on the population control agenda, because that's the one we are dealing with. Apostle, would you want to come in, please?
Thank you so much. Remember, I have not diverted this conversation to anything that is spiritual. I have just become a very social commentator. I have not said anything about God said, or this is. I'm coming in just as a life coach, and I am just giving you a bit of background. Now, all these are conspiracies. The word conspiracy simply means it's an idea which is peddled and it can hit a whole generation, but it has got no scientific proof. Now, we have got a lot of, we are in information age. We are in the days, especially in Africa, because a lot of people are no longer going to work and we are under lockdown, and we have a lot of sites that are just peddling falsehood, some that are peddling, I've seen clips that are doctored. I come from an IT background, and I laugh, because I know, clips that are doctored, and they say, oh, Bill Gates has said this, and they say, oh, this one has said this, oh, so-and-so has said this, Obama has said this, oh, the West has said this, and so on and so forth. Whether or not they want to control population in Africa, but do we have the truth? Do we have do we have the facts? Do we have the evidence? Number two, when Ebola hit West Africa, and I remember those days I used to travel to DRC and so on. Sisters and brothers, Ebola was brutal, and a vaccine was developed, and a lot of people were injected. What I want to advocate is what Dr. Mumba has said, that our government, I know you've only been saying Zimbabwe does not have money, but this is not a Zimbabwean issue, it's a global issue, it's an African issue. So if African presidents can come together and say, South Africa, you are the ones that are more technical than anybody else. And remember, we have African Union. This is where African Union must come in. This is where SADC must come in. Let's have, like a center for SADC. And we say, this is what we are ordering as SADC. This is what we are going to consume as Africa. Let's look for this university for research. Let's take all our young scientists and they go to some place. We have ordered these drugs. They are given samples. I know that industry because I used to work for Capstone Pharmaceutical. I'm telling you, testing of drugs is quite a laborious process. When you see drugs coming in, I remember those days. The testing of drugs is a laborious process.
You talk about the institutions, Apostle, and SADC, AU, but we contend that these are really toothless, institutions, because the pandemic has been there since 2020. Why have they thought to institute something like that? Madagascar has said we've got a vaccine. Why is no one in the African Union or in the SADC region taking the interest to say, Madagascar, bring what you have, let's see what it is? Now that's why most of us will agree with the Tevera Isha, who says we can't take that vaccine. China must take it first, and the whole of Europe. Africans will drink lemons. And we are fine. We drink lemons.
No, Yvonne,
and we take ginger.
But now, my approach is different. Why fight China and not fight your leaders?
We're not fighting our leaders.
Has said we have something that we can work for Africa. And instead of saying, oh, they want to kill us, our energy now. And thank you so much. Who was this? Is Teveraisha? Thank you so much. Thank you. What Teveraisha is saying, let's have something that is homegrown. So,
Right.
on a platform like this, these are the things that we must go to the street for and toy and put pressure on our governments to say, please tell us what is happening with what was developed in Madagascar. Let's please tell us what Zumbani can do. Please tell us. Let's. I'm telling you. In my house, I've been taking mashija, the gum tree.
Okay. Eucalyptus. Yeah.
I have been taking a lot of remedies as well. I speak the truth. And one of the things that Africa has been careless about, probably, let me say this, probably what people are skeptical about is probably corruption. What they are thinking is our government will just order drugs and not even, take time to have them tested, because the pharmaceutical industry, like I said, has become a business. So if I give you an order for 12 million vaccines, probably the order is so many millions. So how much money? I think this is the debate that we are supposed to have. But I am a strong advocate that Africa can do things for itself. I believe that. But whatsoever we cannot develop, let us not call people that develop what we cannot develop demonic. You guys have failed even to develop a bicycle. Africa has failed. Do you know that we don't even develop, we don't even manufacture toothpicks? Did you know that? And we are driving cars that are not African.
Yeah.
I can see you've got a very nice weave, Yvonne, but it's not coming from Bari or Machipisa. It's it's not coming from Glenview.
Right.
It's coming probably from Brazil. So let us not demonize people that have gone ahead of us. What we must become is we must become responsible consumers before we consume an idea. Back to
Right.
Dr. Menegas Mumba. Let us test if this thing works for us before we demonize the thing.
Right. Dusty, Dusty, you're saying things that are quite interesting. You say this system has various timelines for different agendas, and judging them by the little things they do right in the light and having an oversight on the heinous crimes against humanity they commit in the shadows is ignorance we are not willing to be part of. Now, this is the thinking, Apostle, which is really what we want with as we go and as we break down the whole element of the COVID-19 vaccine. The thinking is that they appear to be what they are not. The issue of fox in sheep's clothing. They come to us with an agenda of saying we want to help you, whereas in the background they are trying to destroy us for what we have, the resources that we have here in Africa. And so Dusty is saying the system has different agendas. So if this agenda doesn't work, they come up with the next, like what one of our viewers said, we are no longer in the war of weapons, but we are now being used a biological war on us. And as Africans, because of that ignorance, because of that failure to test, because of that failure to have our own, we're not creating anything of our own. Like you said, we are getting even toothpick from China. How can we not be destroyed, given that background?
Exactly. This is the time that Africa must now wake up. And Dusty Siga, you are very right. I totally agree with you. What this has brought to the African continent is an awakening. Wake up, Africa, from the slumber. Wake up, Africa, from the slumber. It's time now you do things for yourself. And another side of the coin that Dusty is talking about. If you are a minister of the gospel and you become irresponsible and you begin to comment on things that you're not qualified, and thousands and millions of people die, you are also in the same bracket with the people that are pushing this so-called demonic agenda. You must also be held accountable. So we are not exonerating anybody, whether you are a prophet, an apostle, a pastor, a reverend, a president, a minister of health. All we are saying is, let us make sure. Let us make sure. And sisters and brothers, if you do not develop that which is of your own, anytime you consume that which is not of your own, you are bound to pay a price. Africa, you have got enough graduates. Africa, you have got enough doctors, you have got enough scientists. But the problem is you have enjoyed your education and you are excited about just hanging gowns in your wardrobe and you are not doing anything. So I say, even to all of you who said you are unemployed and you are scientists, this is your time to rise up. This is your time to fight for us. I am a preacher. I don't know much about viruses, but this is your time to arise and shine.
Awesome. Awesome. We just want to read the last few comments that are here. Kwanzi Nasiga, that is back. And the Apostle, a simple question.
Mm-hmm.
Will you and your family take the vaccine?
Siga, I will tell you honestly. Number one, my mother has taken me for 6 vaccines. I have taken my children for more than 6 vaccines. And every year, when I moved from Zimbabwe, I came into South Africa. Every year before winter, I make sure my kids are vaccinated. They are given what we call boosters, because it's a new environment. Against many people, my wife has got 3 kids and they're all C-section. And many people were saying, oh, it's of the devil, she is gonna die. I am going to pray, because we have been told by Dr. Maramba that vaccines, there are some that are DNA, some that are RNA, some that are protein-based. I will pray. I make decisions when I have peace. When I feel there is a peace in me,
Right.
I will take my kids. I will take myself and my wife. I'm telling you, some of you probably don't know how much time we have lost. Some of you don't know how much traction we have lost. I have businesses that I cannot go to right now. I have places that I cannot travel to. I have a lot of things that I cannot do. And from March 15, Yvonne, I have been working from home. There is nothing. Dr. Maramba will tell you, as a psychiatrist and a psychologist, how people are getting into depression because of working from home. If there is something that God has given human beings, an ingenuity to produce a vaccine, if I have the peace in me, I am not going to be irresponsible. But when I get the peace that I'm doing the right things, there are so many decisions that I have made by faith. I am telling you, I will get vaccinated. I have had, I told you, I've been vaccinated for yellow fever, and I travel so many places in the world, but I have seen my brothers and sisters who have died like fools. Let me say this, Yvonne. I have many preachers who have died because they said, if you take drugs for diabetes, if you take drugs for blood pressure and so on, some that are sick, and say, I'm a man of faith, I'm a man of faith, I'm a man of faith, and they have died. I have a big assignment. I have brought up 3 kids in this world, and I have millions that I touch per year. and I will not be irresponsible because of conspiracies. I pray, and when God gives me direction, I'll be vaccinated on Facebook Live.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Apostle, for coming through and giving us some of these behind the scenes, behind the mind things that will be going on. Like I said, this is part one of our vaccination series. Hopefully, when we have the medical experts, you may also join in so that we may ask some of the questions that our vana venyu vesangano are also asking you. So it would be a pleasure if you would join me on this journey.
I love tell Dusty Seeger that I love his thinking, and many people that come on your platform, oh, they challenge our thinking, and you know what I'm so excited about, Yvonne. Before I go, your platform has got people who have diverse thinking, and they are not intimidated because they are speaking to an apostle. This is the kind of mindset that we want. We must not be intimidated because we are speaking to the ministers or our presidents, or we must ask them tough questions and take them to task. But we pray that whatsoever Africa is gonna take, my business is to pray that it's gonna be safe. Just like the BCGs, the measles, and a lot of vaccines.
Yeah, and all of
That's
that.
my prayer. That's my
Amen.
prayer.
Amen. Thank you so much, Apostle, for joining me, and have yourself a wonderful and blessed rest of day.
Thank you so much. Be blessed, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so that was Apostle Duncan Manyonda taking us through some of the psychological elements and the spiritual side of things when it comes to the COVID-19 vaccine. We are going to have this every Friday as a series, just as we count down and wait upon the nation to make a decision around the COVID-19 vaccine. The information that we have that is in the public domain is that UK has targeted 15 million people of its citizens to be vaccinated by end of January. India is targeting 1.3 billion people to get the COVID-19 vaccine, and that France intends to have 1 million vaccines per month in schools. Now, the question is, when is Zimbabwe vaccine coming on board? We know that other African countries, Zambia, South Africa, they want to do a trial run. But here's some of the scientific things that we've discovered is that the vaccine that has been produced by, I can't really quite say their name, the Pfizer or something. Yeah.
Pfizer.
Sorry?
It's Pfizer.
Pfizer. Okay. Thank you so much, Apostle. Pfizer. Okay. They have come up with a vaccine that has to be kept and at minus 70 degrees. So the question is, with our temperatures here in Africa, Zofamba say we just need to know some of those things. So I agree with some people who have said, let us create our own solution and follow this in Africa, because we definitely have different temperatures and different Privi Chitsika, you said after taking the vaccine, do I still have to wear a mask, or can I contract it again if I contact with one who has it? This is the subject that we want to talk about with the director in the epidemiology department, who are going to be hands-on should the virus come. So we want to be able to talk about that. If I wear a mask, why am I wearing a mask if I get the vaccine, etc.? So we want to be able to touch on those issues. Thank you so much, Joanna. You said it's better to boil guava and mango leaves or eat oranges in a natural way than swallow a pill called vitamin C that simply was manufactured. Africa has not only raw materials, but also all the medical treatment that is in their natural fruits, trees, herbs, and I'm referring to a baobab tree. Indeed, thank you so much. And thank you so much for thanking us and saying a very interesting discussion. Thank you, ma'am. Keep up your good work. Thanks to you also for joining us in this journey that we've started traveling as we look at what is happening in our country. Level 4 national lockdown, day 11. Kwanzi, people are going to be tested at police checkpoints. So we wait to see when that rollout begins. When we are traveling, let us make sure that we are safe. Those who are traveling for social reasons, let us do so. Right.
Yes,
Apostle.
yes, Yvonne. Let me say this to men and women of my generation. Um, yes, let's talk about the natural remedies. But let me also say we are a generation that is extremely sick. Let us not compare ourselves to the generation of the 1940s and so on. The generation of the 1940s used to have very good diets. They used to eat very natural foods, not these refined foods that we have. They used to walk 20, 40 kilometers polluted. And one of the things that a lot of people do not realize is the immunity of our generation has extremely depleted. So don't ever think that your body is as strong as your grandfather's body. You will need a lot of other supernatural, or you need other medical ways of boosting your immunity. This is a very true thing. I mean, we have people that only walk from, like, where I stay. We have, our lifestyles have changed. We have people that who only walk out of their mansion, apartment, or anywhere, jump into the car, go to the office, go to the mall, and come back. And with such a lifestyle, eating fatty foods, you having all these foods from the West that you are saying, they want to kill us. You are consuming their foods. You are drinking all these illicit beers. What people are smoking. We have a generation that is taking a lot of drugs on nyaupe. We have also individuals that are HIV positive. Let us not forget, we have millions. We have people that have got blood pressure. We have people that have got sugar diabetes. We have a lot of people that have cancers. So when you take this subject, do not be selfish. Think about so many people that have got other ailments that are besides you. It's not everybody who is as strong as Yvonne and Duncan speaking here. Let us speak on behalf of the whole generation.
All right. Thank you so much, Apostle. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, Zimbabwe. Just a quick update on where we are in terms of our statistics. So, right. So we have 1,112 new cases recorded. These are for today, 14 January. Today's 14 is 15 January. Okay. So this is the information for yesterday. So we had 1,112 new cases. We had 47 deaths. Cumulatively, our cases are at 25,368. Remember, yesterday we said 24,256 cumulative cases. Today, the cumulative cases are at 368. We've had 14,714 recoveries, and total deaths come up to 636. So Zimbabwe, let us keep the vigilance on. Because the struggle is real, and COVID-19 is here with us. We thank God for the 14,000 recoveries, and we weep with those who are weeping and mourning their 636 departed. Let us remember to mask up, Make sure we cover our nose. Make sure we cover. Make sure you cover your nose. Make sure you cover your mouth. Let us wash and sanitize our hands, and let us maintain social distance. The reason why we are doing these shows online is because we can't quite invite somebody into the studio because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So let us keep safe. Let us mask up, and let us protect one another. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are bringing you the vaccination series every Friday. So make sure to join us from midday up to 1 o'clock. My name is Yvonne Muchaka. Thank you, Apostle Duncan Manyonda. Thank you to Dr. Maramba, who we've lost because of our network. We hope to continue this conversation. Thank you, Zimbabwe, and have yourself a lovely rest of day.